Doctor at the end, since this is admittedly a bit of a saga. After college, I accepted a job across the country and moved in with a vague acquaintance I had met a couple of times. It quickly became clear that we were not going to get along. He was incredibly rude and condescending, routinely making snide remarks about my intelligence since I had been in a sorority in college. He would instruct me on how to redo all of my chores in his way, always insinuating that I just wasn't as smart as he was. This led to a few heated arguments, and we ended up basically avoiding each other. My room was in the basement, and he was on the second floor. Except for going in and out, I stayed in the basement to avoid him. One night, I returned home and my cat was missing. He is a huge fatty, and never misses a meal, so I was immediately worried. I texted the roommate to see if he had let him out by mistake. He ignored me. I looked everywhere in my room and in the common areas, no cat. I could hear that he was home, so I texted again, asking if he could please check his room, or just let me know if the cat got out by mistake. Again, no response. I couldn't search the neighborhood much after dark, since we were in a pretty rough area, so I stayed up all night making flyers and online posts. I called animal control, and my parents, and broadly had a massive mental breakdown. I figured the most likely scenario was that he had escaped and wandered into the road. Early the next morning, Saturday, I looked all over our neighborhood. Losing hope, I returned back home. Right before I went back down to my half of the house, I heard a faint, distressed yell. I followed the noise upstairs, and realized, it was coming from horrible roommate's locked bedroom. I phoned him repeatedly and waited several hours for him to come home, unlock his door, and let my poor cat out of his closet. No explanation was given, and, this cat being an OG fatty and also a jerk, there is no way he silently slept all night. Simply put, there was no way this could have been an accident. At this point, we had 1 month left on the lease, and I was able to make arrangements to stay with family for that final month. Interestingly enough, our internet service was in my name. I paid the final month in full, and loaded my stuff into a U-Haul. I gleefully unplugged and returned our rented router, and OG Fatty Cat and I left town a month early. Wouldn't you know it, later that night my phone starts blowing up with texts and calls. This man is looking for his missing internet. Somehow, I couldn't be bothered to respond. Drive, my roommate hid my cat from me and ignored me while I panicked, so I moved out early and disconnected his internet. So, I work as a customer service manager for a certain retail chain that has an annual membership. Today, I have this gem of a phone call. Keep in mind that while this conversation is happening, I'm trying to answer questions from my cashiers, ringing my own customers and keeping an ear out for calls from the floor associates about any issues. Thank you for calling, company @ place / how may I direct your call? Well, I'm not too sure. I'm having some issues with my membership, the one I pay the annual fee for to get my discount. That'll be customer service, sir. I can help you. What seems to be the issue? I can't get online. I'm sorry? I'm on your website shopping, but I can't get online. You're on our website? On your computer? Yes. Then you're online, sir. But I can't use my discount. So you're having difficulty bringing up your membership on the website? Yes, I can't bring it online, it won't recognize my email. Can I have your email? I'll check that your membership is still active. I check his account and everything is fine. Everything looks fine on our end, sir. If you're having difficulty with your computer, I can direct you to a sales associate and they can do an order right over the phone with you. And that's fine for right now, but how do I get online later? I sigh, take off my customer service hat and put on my baby IT hat. Are you logged into your account? No, it won't let me. I keep trying my info but it doesn't let me log in. Alright, well I can see that your email isn't the problem since I could look up your account with it, so I'm going to send a reset link to your email. Just click on that and it'll walk you through creating a new password. Okay, I did it. Alright, now log in with your new password. It still won't let me. It sounds like your account might have been locked from repeated login attempts. It's going to have to be unlocked by the IT department. But how do I get online now? Can't you just help me? Sir, I am trying to help you. If you need to get your order done immediately, I can transfer you to a sales associate to get that done and then we'll get you in touch with IT to unlock your account. I don't have the resource to do that myself from the store. And then I'll be able to get online? Yes, sir, then you'll be able to get online. IT rep who answered the transfer, I'm so sorry. A few weeks ago we had a riot in our downtown on a Saturday night. Day is important. Not as bad as in other cities, but a couple cars were flipped over, people were hurt, and the National Guard showed up. Scary time for everyone. That Monday we had a guest call asking if he could have a refund because of the riot. We looked up his stay and he stayed on the previous Friday. Again, the riot was on Saturday. Nice try, buddy. P.S. I was stunned by the responses on my other thread about the wedding dress. Thank you all so much for the love. Less than 3. I'll admit the compliance wasn't very malicious here. It was mainly just compliance. I'm a software developer. I write software. Our software testers test the software that I write. When they find a bug, they write a bug report, and I fix the bug. Simple, right? Management likes to plan things, and that's fine. They like to measure productivity, which is also fine, provided the measurement makes sense. They chose a measurement that doesn't make sense. They decided that during planning, developers need to estimate how many bugs there will be in our code. The measurement would be, if the tester found significantly fewer bugs than the estimate, then they must not be testing effectively. If they found significantly more bugs than the estimate, then we must be doing a bad job writing code. You can probably see the flaw here. A software developer strives to write code without bugs. We don't often succeed, but we try. While it's likely that a very complex system will have more bugs than a simple one, this is a broad approximation, and not the sort of thing you can use to meaningfully measure productivity. Since the software developers and the software testers are all professionals who strive to produce a good product, we decided to comply in the laziest way possible. Everybody knew the estimated number of bugs from planning, so it was easy enough for the testers to see if they were going to go above or below that number. If they were finding a lot of bugs, they wouldn't write all of them up, and instead would talk to the developers directly. If they weren't finding enough bugs, they'd start nitpicking for the tiniest of things, and if that wasn't enough, the developers might accidentally check in new, easy-to-fix bugs while fixing other bugs. In this way, everyone met their numbers, and management got to pretend they were doing something useful. It was stupid, but sometimes it's easier to comply with a stupid decision than it is to talk sense to the decision maker. I used to work at an electronics retailer. We sold anything you'd need from laptops, to batteries, remote control cars, TVs etc. We had 2 locations of this store in our town, and I worked at the crappy one. In an average 12-hour day we'd see somewhere around 30 customers. Onto the story. This will be short, and not super exciting to be completely honest. One day a customer comes in, he's an older gentleman. I greet the man and he tells me what he's looking for. He needs an HDMI cord. We have several lengths in store, anywhere from 3 feet to 30 feet. I bring him over to the section in the store where we keep the HDMI cables. He tells me he needs the longest cable we have. I tell him the longest one we have is 30 feet. His response is no. That's too long, reminding me of Hans Moleman in The Simpsons asking for the biggest seatbelt they have. He settles for a 12-foot cord. At a previous job, without getting into detail, we stored important items for different businesses. When they needed any of these, they sent through a request, and provided it was before 4 p.m. we delivered it the next day. There was an unspoken understanding that if it was a large order, they would put it through early to give us plenty of time to deliver it. Until one day, one of our bigger, read entitled, clients decided they needed 100 boxes delivered the next day. A friendly phone call to them was unsuccessful. Basically they told us it was in before 4, they need it tomorrow. I spoke to my boss and we came to an agreement. Next day I sent my drivers to do the rest of the run, while I picked the order. I then loaded it into a spare van and continued with the rest of my work. 3 p.m. comes and I let my boss know I'm taking the van home. He smiles, says see you tomorrow, and I'm off. 3:30 I arrive at the clients to them in a panic thinking I'm not coming, and they close at 4. When they ask why I'm there so late I merely responded we got them here next day, didn't we? After they had to stay late to help unload everything, to their credit they apologized and never pulled that stunt again. Anyone else love it when you knock on the door, and the customer answers accompanied by a super friendly dog? I might be having a really shoot day, but if I deliver to a house and a friendly dog comes out to greet me, well, my day seems to get a good deal better after that. Side note, I hate it when the customer calls for another family member to take the dog away because they think the dog's bothering me. No. Let me pet the dog. Please. Also, does anyone else ever see dogs roaming the streets alone and stop to try and contact the owner? I've gotten a couple of dogs back to their owners and it feels good. If you see a dog out and about, Looking a bit lost, maybe down on its luck? Try and help out. Look to see if it has a collar on it that might provide contact info. You might make someone's entire year if you manage to return a lost dog to its family. Disclaimer: don't try to help a dog that seems the least bit aggressive/defensive. If a dog doesn't want you to grab it, don't grab it. If you do get bit by a dog, go and get rabies shots. If the owner of the dog doesn't pick up when you try and call, then leave a message on the phone of the owner and contact a local shelter with info on the dog and its whereabouts, and then either wait for them to arrive and collect said pup, or leave the dog where you found it. If there is an address on the collar, then take the dog, if possible, to that address. Don't take the dog with you anywhere else because the dog may already be very close to its home and able to find its way back, and also you're on the job and can't really have a dog traveling with you, unless you're taking it to the address on its collar. If you have to leave a pup behind, don't feel bad. If you stop to try and help the dog, then you already went above and beyond what most people would do and can't blame yourself for not being able to reunite dog and owner. In 1979, my dad's company transferred him to Mexico City, from Toronto. We flew down in early December and moved into a good hotel in the city. Our furniture was supposed to arrive in a week or so, and then we would move into the house that the company was renting for us. It did. Except we found out that it was going to be stuck in customs for an indeterminate amount of time. My dad asked his company if they would let him expense some basic living gear for the house. Cookware, plates, a few beds, just enough to get us out of the hotel and into the house. The company said no. Policy was that we were to be in a hotel until the furniture arrived, not to buy us furniture or housewares. My dad noted that the policy didn't say what hotel we had to stay in. So we moved out of the individual rooms of the hotel we were in, and moved into one of the presidential suites at a 5-star hotel, Hotel Camino Real. We had 2 floors, and a private swimming pool. The hotel put a Christmas tree in our living room. In 1979, the suite was around $400 per day. I have no idea what it is in today's money. We ate out at really nice restaurants. We got tired of steak and lobster. In all, we were in the hotel for 39 days, before we got our belongings out of customs. The hotel bill was somewhere around $14,000. My dad said that they changed the policy after that. I do tech support in the military. It is honestly very fun and I have some wild stories. This happened a few years ago while I was posted overseas. At the time I worked for a nice but not very technologically savvy officer. He was smart in so many other ways that it was bizarre how bad he was with computers. About a month before this happened I had installed a large multi-function printer to the building he worked in. I know he had seen it because it was a network printer and I had mapped it for him. I had even seen him grab things off it, so I know he had seen the printer. One morning I get a message from the officer. "Officer, can I make a color copy?" Me, secret or not secret? This is important because you can't do one on a machine that is designated for the other. Oh, not secret. Me, sir, you can use the printer in your building. Oh, it can do that? Me, yes, sir. I keep a screenshot of the conversation for when I need a laugh. My roommates are not the best people to be around. You can check my history if you want the other saga. Anyway, one of my roommates is an overgrown child and isn't aware that chicken goes bad pretty quickly. I was sick of throwing out his gross-ass food on a weekly basis, so I've just let it fester in the fridge. I can smell that he's cooking the chicken, that was green yesterday, so he's definitely about to get super sick. I'm obviously not going to say anything, but darn karma is an idiot, haha. Edit. I know it's bad because the house smells like hot garbage, but I've opened the window and closed my room door. Minus 10,000% worth it. Sorry for spelling mistakes, I'm writing from mobile. It is also pretty short as I am not good at making stories longer than they need to be. Me, RM, Rude Man, New Mexico, nice man. So it was 2 days ago. Me and my friends were swinging on one of those handicapped swings, as in 4 years I've never seen any handicapped person there, and we knew how to properly and safely operate it. Here comes the RM. RM, you can't swing on this. This is for handicapped people. Me, if we see any, we will free it for them. RM, no. You will free it now. We then stopped the swing, all went out and proceeded to another attraction on the playground. After a while we see NM swinging his kids on the same swing we were kicked from, and RM didn't even try to stop him. NM was really tough looking. So we asked NM if we can join in. He said yes. We then entered the ride, told NM what happened, and everyone, even NM, had a good laugh about RM, as we seen him turn red, as he was still sitting there. Obligatory happened a few months ago, but keep remembering it. So a couple friends and I, 19M, went out clubbing one night and a particular girl caught my eye. Lost her quite quickly, as you often do in clubs. Later on my group started hanging around with a few girls and generally just having a chill time with them. I see the first girl again and both my mates and the new girls tell me to try talking to her and try to kiss her or something. Self-conscious me gets too scared and asks what if she doesn't want her to kiss me? One of the girls who joined us then tells me that she personally would. Me being dumb didn't realize she had flirted with me and continued on with the night. At the end of the night we all went out separate ways and I finally realized what had happened once I was almost home. TLDR, mind was so occupied by one girl that I didn't realize another one was flirting with me. This happened about half a year ago and I thought it might be worth sharing on this sub. I'm a teacher currently living in the UK. English is not my first language, but I speak and understand it just fine, apart from my somewhat noticeable Finnish accent. About half a year ago I had lived my whole life thinking that "don't let the door hit you on your way out" was meant as a way to wish someone a safe journey home. My logic was that by being careful leaving, the door wouldn't hit you when you left, meaning you got out safe. This was a perfectly logical explanation for the phrase in my mind and I never thought much about it. Like I said, I am a teacher and sometimes I have to deal with difficult parents. There was a child in my class who needed special attention to get through some school days. I often had meetings with his parents discussing how we could make school life easier for their son. The parents weren't too keen on helping the child, saying they didn't want him to stand out from others. I had countless meetings with the parents and they always ended up with the mom practically yelling at me and calling me horrible things. I was used to it, and during the latest meeting I was being yelled at. I stayed calm and kind. After the meeting, when they had calmed down a bit, they started leaving. Then I, being the polite person I am, happily told them as they were leaving to not let the door hit them on their way out. That's when shit really hit the fan. The mom started yelling at me, telling me how incredibly childish and rude I was acting. Even the usually calm dad was getting angry. I was just standing there like an idiot trying to understand what I had done, not understanding where this all was coming from. Our principal ended up coming to the scene and I tried to explain how I had just wished them a safe journey home. That's when I learned the real meaning of the phrase. Thankfully our principal is a great understanding person and knows that these particular parents aren't the easiest to deal with. I apologized awkwardly and the parents went home. After that event, every time I leave a room all my colleagues mockingly tell me to not let the door hit me on my way out. And frankly I'm still having a hard time believing it's a rude thing to say. TLDR, I thought that "don't let the door hit you on your way out" was a nice thing to say. I told that to angry parents during a meeting to be polite, and that's when I learned the true meaning of the phrase. So, there's this one duo I've recently noticed coming in pretty much daily. They're a mom and son, I think. They get the same thing every time. Very low maintenance table. Tip really well each time. I've gotten them the last few times they've come in. Our restaurant is open seating so customers choose where they'd like to sit, and they came back today. We weren't busy when they came in, and I happened to see them as they entered. I told them they could sit anywhere they'd like, and they responded with "oh, wherever you're at." So, I led them to where my section was. Probably cheesing like a dumbass. Y'all know that feeling as a server when someone unexpectedly requests you, and it just makes you feel good about yourself, because now you know those people will look for you every time they come in? I know you know it. It's kinda cool. They're your people now. Kinda made my day. It was Sunday, noon, just a few hours ago, and the store was full for the first time in 3 months. I had a lot of tables, more than I was used to after so long not working, and was running food, drinks, and servables, salt, pepper, jelly, everything else that people needed. I was walking a tray of 7 plates on my left shoulder, and my destination was the far table of the floor. I grabbed a tray jack with my right hand, so I am balancing the tray on my left shoulder with a grip, and holding the tray jack. I go across the restaurant, and see a kid barreling towards me, probably heading to the bathroom. I look at the table on my right next to my tray jack. "Sorry, guys. I have to drop this. I hope you understand in a second." Kid hits into me. I pivot around on my foot, holding the tray with both hands as my body starts spinning. I do a full 360, planting my foot down again as I spin to stop. All the food stays intact. The table at my right is looking at me like something epic just happened. They could have been showered in food and ceramics. No one was hurt when I dropped the tray jack. No idea about the origin of the kid, or the parents that should have been with them. I just knew I saw trouble coming and reacted as quickly as I could. The table was really cool with it. A group of nice young people who probably know the service life. This just happened 1 or 2 hours ago. Due to COVID, I haven't been able to work out in a gym, and though gyms are starting to open where I live, I don't want to risk getting the virus for an hour or two of pumped muscle. So for about a week now, I've been doing some basic exercise like push-ups, squats and sit-ups. As I went down to the living room, I saw the sack of rice near the door. Right then, I assumed that it just got delivered. So I picked it up and put it in my shoulder, then poof, the rice grain just covered the whole living room. Little did I know that they already punched a hole in the sack for our dinner. The rice grain is everywhere. The carpet, beneath the coffee table, and other furniture. My aunt got startled, my sister laughed at me hysterically for a solid 10-minute period as I clean up the whole mess. For today's lesson, always check the sack of rice before lifting it up. DL, doctor, I tried to use a sack of rice as weights for my squat exercise and end up scattering rice grains all over the living room. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. This is from a few years ago when I was working for a contracting company. My first project was helping a company upgrade their entire very outdated environment, that was fairly large. This project took about 2 years. Partially because they kept on changing the scope, sometimes we got notified about another group of servers that they magically forgot about. Honestly, a very unorganized company. We had to make our own servers so we could scan the environment. They also were a physical shop, so we had the fun job of bringing in even more contractors to bring in VMware. I'd how much we charged them, but it probably wasn't enough. I was really fresh to IT and the company I landed with. I only had to set up servers on VMware, but I learned so much from the project after working with so many people, so that made the 2 years of torture very rewarding for me. The torture went to the other guys, I still feel bad for them. So 2 years are over and we managed to get their entire environment over. About 2 months later we get a call. Things in their environment were beginning to fail. So we get in touch with the main administrator at the company so we could help them resolve the issues. I can't believe what I'm about to say, but this freaking idiot apparently started deleting VMs from the environment we made and went back into putting his physical NT servers back into production. We obviously said you can't be doing this. This guy on the call basically said that he didn't understand 2012. He couldn't administer it anymore. He will be moving back to NT and we are to help him. At this point we just got off the call ASAP and we reached out to the people that hired us and kind of had to tell them what happened. That main administrator was let go. And this part I still feel bad about. They basically let go of the entire team that was administering their environment. A different part of my company continued in the future to do all of the support and they didn't get a new infrastructure team. The only guy that survived the purge was the desktop help desk guy. As one of my very first projects, it a doozy XD. This is a childhood mystery. I went to the cinema in 2005, when I was 9, and saw a poster for Jumanji 2. I also saw a billboard showing upcoming movies, and Jumanji 2 was there. I liked Jumanji so I was excited, but I never heard of it again and it obviously never came out. I know Zathura was marketed as a Jumanji sequel, but I'm about 90% sure that the title in the poster was Jumanji 2. It's useless to Google it because Jumanji has a sequel now, but in 2008-2009 I found a Facebook group with people who also remembered having seen the poster back then. Does anyone know anything about this? I've been working at this resort hotel for over 2 years. Started in the gift shop and now work front desk and night audit. My last manager was young, and I could always tell they didn't want to be there, daily calling me in early so they could leave, and taking 2 vacations within 1 year. Right before COVID they were fired. I now have a new manager and they tend towards micromanagement. The most upsetting part of it all is they have no knowledge about my work history, so their advice on projects are unwelcome. I already work my tail off and go above and beyond what's required of me, always have. In 2 years I've seen just about every employee call in sick, leaving me to cover 1 sick day in 730 days, never late, always clock 5 minutes before shift, always follow procedures and willing to help my fellow employees. Projects from the new boss are not welcome when I can barely finish the work I'm supposed to do, and have done consistently and without fail since I've started. I'm a rock-solid employee. My bosses are always ditzy and disheveled, with scheduling, I guess now micromanagement, and in general with their place in the workforce. Thinking about just bailing dudes. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah, she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance, but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the EMTs got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. At my store we sell credit cards, and myself and another girl are top performers. The kicker is like half of hers are illegal. If someone doesn't have an ID, she runs the application through anyways. If the person doesn't have a social, she puts fake numbers in. She's been caught multiple times and nothing has happened. We got a new manager and who doesn't even manage. He was closing with us today and got the fake credit card girl to tell us what to do. Are you even the manager, bro? The whole store was looking pretty clean when he snapped at my coworker and I to go find something to do and yelled at me to resize skirts. I'm so tired of feeling anxious every day. On top of that, we get nothing for getting these credit cards other than ours. Other stores give their associates gift cards and other prizes, but we get pitted against each other like it's the Hunger Games when only the managers benefit, and I'm so tired of it. So I'd quit the point of this. I guess I'm hoping people here will relate or have some advice. DL, doctor at the start, in case it's too painful to read. Restricted sailor injures himself on a ladder well. Blood involved. Not for the squeamish. Anyone who was present at the time and knows me will instantly remember this story. Obviously, I'm leaving out names and specific locations. Please do not name names if you recognize me or the situation. I was stationed on board a ship in the process of an overhaul, working in the safety department. A large portion of the crew hated us green hats, especially when they were caught doing shady shoot, or refused to wear the PPE that was a direct order from the captain. Anywho, I was the duty department head that night, and all alone in my section, as we were a small department. I'm in the office up on the O2 level, when I get a call on the radio shortly after the evening muster for restricted personnel. Duty safety, duty medical, OOD. Go for duty safety. Need you both at the quarterdeck now. On my way. Before I get there, I can smell blood. Where it came from, I had no idea. Then I saw a trail, small droplets on the non-skid of the hangar bay, getting larger, leading to a kid sitting on a stack of pallets. There was a puddle of it next to his boot that had obviously run down the leg of his coveralls. It was starting to congeal into a mound rather than a puddle. I chatted with the dude while I waited for duty medical, a chief whom I knew well. Come to find out, this kid was racing to make it to muster on time, tried to slide down the handrail of a ladder well from their berthing to the hangar deck. How exactly it happened, I never found out, but he got snagged in the handrail, pinching his unit and effectively severing his urethra. Despite the pain, he reported for muster, and fought the pain until he couldn't anymore. That's when we got the call. He was escorted off the ship and to the nearest hospital for surgery. I had the dubious honor of informing my senior chief, who graciously offered to call our female safety officer. Thank God. However, I still had to discuss the matter with her in the morning, and a few times afterward, as we were updated on his condition. I honestly hope that he recovered. If you're reading this, know that every time I recall this tale, I feel your pain. This story is from a few years ago when I still subjected myself to the arbitrary fascism known as retail. I was working full-time in the footwear department of a hunting, fishing, hiking etc. store. A customer came up to me looking for some hiking shoes, not sure of exactly what he wanted. No problem, I'd be working for almost 2 years and had an extensive knowledge on everything in my department. We started to talk about his needs and I quickly found the brand for him. However, the first few ended up not working so well for him. Again, not too much of an issue, but he seemed to be getting increasingly upset. Before I could offer another shoe, he cut me off and said, "Why don't you just go back there and get every single size 9? I tried to explain that, since we have over 500 shoes on display, that I wouldn't be able to bring everything out. That only seemed to upset him a bit more and he asked again to just bring out everything. I walked to the back room a bit frustrated at the impossibility of the task. However, I decided to do exactly what he asked for. I picked out 14 boxes of size 9s, stacked them up, and held all of them, clearly suffering while walking over to him. I could see his attitude change as I came out, barely holding onto the stack. I plopped them down and said, "Here's some of the size 9s we have. There's quite a few more, so I'll be right back." He quickly stopped me and told me this was enough. He then tried on the first pair, thanked me and left. It did suck to see that I only needed to bring out the first one, but the look on his face was worth the reorganizing. The other day my girlfriend said that she needed to talk about our relationship. She said this right after I said I was going to bed, so she said we didn't need to talk immediately. The next day towards the evening I was really scared that she was going to break up with me, but I asked if she was ready to talk anyways and she said she was. She said that she felt like she was just a trophy to me and that I didn't actually love her but just the idea of having someone. I tried to explain to her that I really did love her and not just having someone. She said that simply saying that I really loved her didn't make her feel any differently. We talked back and forth for a while and to me it was starting to sound like she was going in the direction of breaking up with me, so I decided to make it quick and just ended it myself. I explained to her that that was the only way I saw to not hurt her. Boy, was that the wrong decision. So today I messaged her saying that I knew it wouldn't change her opinion but I really miss her and wish we were back together. She said she understood but there was a way that we could have worked through it without breaking up, and that was just to talk through it. I told her I tried putting myself in her shoes and it didn't seem like there was any way I could change myself to stop making her feel that way. She told me that it wasn't something I needed to change about myself and that it was more of a dynamic thing and how we were supposed to balance each other out, but when there was an imbalance we didn't try to go back to equilibrium. She said that when things got hard I just ran instead of trying to work it out. She was so right. In that moment I realized that I was so caught up in being scared that she was going to break up with me that I failed to listen to what she had to say and just broke up with her. I told her how sorry I was and I begged for forgiveness, realizing how much more I had hurt her. She said she forgave me but she would need some time to herself to make the right decision for her. I told her she could take all the time she needed and I apologized to her again. She explained that taking time to herself does not guarantee any outcome. I wish I could go back and erase that mistake. DL. Doctor, I broke up with my girlfriend to try not to hurt her but ended up causing more damage. This happened a few years ago when I was still IFDA, I'm in reservations now. A guest called the desk with a complaint. Guest, the microwave in our room doesn't work. My wife has been trying to heat up her pizza slice for over 10 minutes and it's still not hot. Me, microwave? We don't have microwaves in our guest rooms. Guest, yeah, the one in the closet. Me, after telling the AFAM his response, "Sir, a manager is on their way to your room now to assist you." The AFAM got there to find a big slice of pizza in the closet safe. The guests managed to get cheese and sauce all in the locking mechanism so that it had to be completely replaced. Now every time my husband and I stay at a hotel, we check for a microwave in the closet and laugh. This story is brutal, though thankfully, swift. I was at a community pool with my wife and 3 years old daughter. In keeping with social distancing measures, I swam with my daughter to keep her from glomming onto other children. My wife was on the sidelines with our infant son, and I would occasionally look over to see how everyone was doing. It was during one of these quick glances that my daughter, in all her water-winged glory, made a beeline for the side of the pool where an underwater bench allowed people to sit along the wall. It was there, on the bench, that an overweight woman and her daughter, who appeared to be the same age as mine, were sitting and playing. It was obvious that my kid wanted to play with a peer and I felt bad having to shut her down. But, taking my duties as a pandemic-conscious parent seriously, I swam over to guide her back to open waters. When I came within 6 of them, I said, to my daughter, "Hey, big girl." To my chagrin, the overweight woman looked up and said yes. Panic gripped my heart and time stopped. Thankfully, I hadn't made eye contact with her and quickly made additional comments to my daughter. Then, I looked to the woman and her child, and doing my best to appear unaware of her inadvertent response, said something offhand like, "Sorry about that." I could see in the woman's eyes a shame and humiliation that was god-darn heartbreaking. To overcome the moment, I tried to make small talk, but I could tell I wasn't successful. They left the pool shortly after my daughter and I swam away. I'm still cringing and feel awful. I hope she's okay. DL, doctor, I called a woman fat. So I don't know about anyone else, but when I see a door and someone is behind me, my ultimate instinct is to hold it open for them. So anyways, I was leaving my university library this morning through a revolving door. I was also on my phone, not really paying attention to my surroundings. Then I saw a boy behind me with a coffee in one hand and a book in the other. This is a bit weird for me to say, but he had a great sense of fashion. It kind of caught me off guard. After I exit out into the open, without realizing it, I hold my hand back to stop the motion of the door. He walked right into the glass, spilling it all over himself. Then he just started staring at me. Like this, 0 to 0. I panicked. I ran. I didn't look back. The end. DL, Dr. Tifu by trying to hold open a revolving door for a cool-looking dude and ended up causing him to spill his coffee all over himself. So I had one of those tables today. We've been really busy since we have reopened. It seems like everybody just can't wait to go out and eat. We never have more than one waitress on at a time, and even though we are only at half capacity, everybody that comes in just seems so needy. So I have this table come in 3 adults 2 kids. I could tell they were troubled to start this because they were not happy that we didn't have a full menu. When I brought out their food, they complained that their eggs weren't right and their ham was burned. I know they got the eggs they ordered because I always write things down. Their ham was fine, they just wanted a free piece. Their kids were running all over the place, almost knocking over the dishwasher. Then their boy, who looked to be about 4, dashed out the door and tried to cross the street to the country store. I had to put my full tray down and run out and grab him before he got hit by a car. The parents barely said thank you. Even after that, they didn't make him stay in his seat. They left a huge mess with scrambled egg all over the floor. And then to top it off, on their check in the line where you were supposed to write the tip, and they wrote taxes theft instead of a tip. Like it is my fault that they have to pay tax on their food. I am so glad they weren't local, and hopefully I'll never have to deal with them again. But I really hope karma catches up with them sometime. I feel better now that I've ended. Thank you. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. Hello. This happened a long time ago. I was young and had just come back from traveling in Europe. I wound up renting an apartment that I was not happy with, but it was in my hometown, and was affordable. I was hoping to move out, and was able to do so once a better opportunity came along. The apartment was generally depressing, so I was looking forward to moving out. I talked to the landlord and building manager about moving out, and to see if I could move out mid-month to save on some rent. They said that was not possible, and I would have to wait until the end of the month to move out. Fine, not a big problem. The building manager says I need to fill out some forms before I can move out, so I go to his office and do so. He was not a very friendly guy, but honestly I had not had any interactions with him prior to this, and had no hard feelings about him. One of the questions on the form was, "Why are you moving out?" I left it blank. What business is it of anyone's why I'm moving out? The building manager handed me back the form and said, "You have to fill this in." I told him that I didn't feel like giving a reason that I am moving out, and didn't understand why it was mandatory. He insisted that I had to fill it in or he would not process my move-out paperwork to end the month-to-month lease. I said okay fine, and filled in "I do not like the building manager." He was shocked when he read it. I told him I didn't want to put anything down, but rules are rules. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. This happened about 4 months ago. I was horny and thinking to go to a brothel. I took my car and went to the city. Now I have heard where the brothel was but I didn't know exactly, so I was driving through that area but didn't saw it, so I pull my car a little bit out of the city on the road and I am on my phone to search for it. So a guy comes next to me and asks if I have a problem. I tell him I am okay, but he insists and asks me what I am looking for. I told him a little bit rude to go away. He then proceeded to get out of his car, ask me for ID and search my car for drugs. Turns out he was an officer in disguise. I got so ashamed he asks me again after he finds no drugs, what am I doing in this area, and in the end I told him what I was looking for. He told me to just leave while he was laughing. I felt so ashamed that I immediately left and went home. DL, doctor was looking for brothel pullover by cop for drugs because I parked in an area where drug dealers seemed to use. So I work at a small office for a construction company. I have one coworker that is a grandma and due to some parental issues, she is now taking care of her 2 youngest granddaughters, ages 7 and 8. She doesn't really have money so she can't pay for a babysitter to watch the girls as she's working her 8 to 5 job. There is also the issue of COVID-19 right now, so having a stranger come into your house for long periods of time and be around kids is not really a good idea. Luckily, for her, the boss is okay with the girls being in the office as long as they don't bother anyone from working and be quiet. Over the time, I've slowly went from being grandma's co-worker to being a babysitter. This is how it starts. The girls did that at first, until one of their tablets broke down and stopped working. Then, they would fight over the other tablet and would whine and tattle to the closest adult there, usually me. So to stop this I brought my tablet just so that they could watch Disney+. It worked, until my tablet ran out of power. Then, whoever had that tablet would start to come up to me and say I'm bored. They bring a backpack full of colors, coloring books, toys, etc. so I know that they aren't bored, they just want a tablet. I would then have to list off things for them to do, so that I could go back to work. After a while, I've learned how my coworker has been parenting them, and when the girls do something, then I just follow what my coworker tells them to do. For example, the girls have a towel and toothbrushes and toothpaste in the girls' bathroom. They are told that they have to wash their face, hands, and teeth after eating lunch. The girls would try to get away with this and go straight back to the tablets after eating, so I would have to remind them as to subtly tell them that they can't disobey their grandma. Now, I just have to raise an eyebrow and they listen. I really was fed up with all of this, especially when my coworker and I would usually be the only ones in the office, but I didn't really say anything because I know that my coworker can't really do anything to keep them home, and they are kids who need to be loud and run around and all that. But, I finally realized how much my coworker was taking advantage of me when she said, "Wow. You're the cheapest babysitter. All I have to do is just pay for your lunch." She not only said this straight to my face, but also in front of the girls who now believe that I am their babysitter. Now if there are any problems, from an untied shoe to a fight over who can get what, the girls go to me first before their grandma. I went to Kohl's to buy a bunch of clothes, but the changing rooms are closed for the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic. I haven't been in an outlet store since 2019, so I wasn't thinking, of course the changing rooms would be closed. I weighed the options to risk clothing that may not fit me well and decided to put it all back. I'm wearing a black and red plaid button-up shirt, but the guy sees me putting clothes away and says, "Do you guys have anything besides skinny jeans? I'm sick of skin-tight jeans." I didn't respond immediately because I didn't think he was talking to me. I had a short pause that I realized I'm in a possible idle moment, and then I turned to the guy with a quizzical furrowed brow look. It must have translated well, because he asks, "Kohl's?" I say no. He walks away. As I had been browsing the jeans, I should have told him about the regular Levi 505 and Levi Athletic cut I saw earlier, looser in seat and thigh with taper, but I was in somewhat of a daze and sad that this wasn't something more noteworthy. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. Today has been one of those days. Seems like I have been getting tickets all day with users not restarting their computers before sending in tickets. Ticket, problem with this, or that. Remote in, checkup time. 12 days, 25 days, 53 days, and so on. Me, before proceeding further. Please restart your computer and let me know if you have problems after the reboot. A few moments later. User, hey, it's working now. Me, great, glad it has been fixed. I feel like Roy from the IT crowd. I'm getting paid either way, I guess. So I worked as a cashier for 2 years and started when I was 18, and I learned that some of these customers really just don't care about their kids. Like yeah, I understand they're a lot to handle, but putting your kids in harm's way, like letting a small child climb the stack of bottled waters. Leaving a case of soda on your infant's stomach while she's screaming and you talk to your friend on the phone. Getting mad at another customer who helped your child from getting hit by a cart. Leaving infants unattended in carts. Putting your child on the belt used for groceries only. Is too much. I don't know a lot about parenting since I don't have kids, but it's just common sense to not let these things happen, right? I remember having to take the heavy case of soda off the little girl and she calmed down immediately and the dad just looked at me like, oh, thanks, woman face palming. So obligatory this happened yesterday, and I'm on mobile, so sorry for the formatting. I, 26 meters, attended a wedding for a friend, 27 meters, of mine and walked in looking like Johnny Cash. Everyone thought I was at the wrong party. I thought I was going to a funeral for a relative. All black everything except for belt and sunglasses. Changed clothes in the Walmart parking lot and put on black pants, black button-up long-sleeve shirt, black suspenders, black shoes, black socks, black tie, black, everything. My bad everyone. Calendars are hard during quarantine. DL, doctor. My friend got married and I thought someone died. I can post a pic/video later if need be. I hope this is 750 words now, but it's not that long of a story. Yes, the bride was okay with it. She cool. And no, I wasn't in the wedding party, just an attendee. Regular guest. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting followed by the bouncer escorting her out. I live in a duplex with me upstairs and an elderly neighbor downstairs. We don't interact much, but when we do, we get along pretty well. He rarely checks his mailbox, so it often overflows, and the other day I decided to put the overflow mail directly in front of his door because it didn't seem he was getting it. He still didn't collect it for 3 or 4 days, so I moved it back out to the mailbox, which now had tons of mail plus the overflow. A few more days passed and he still didn't collect it. Some important stuff was in there, social security checks and stuff, and I was getting worried for him. Today he left his window open, so I picked up the mail, stuck my arm in the window, and placed it on a chair right inside. Tonight I'm listening as he rants to the landlord about someone deceiving him and stealing his mail and then breaking into his apartment and putting it on his chair. I'd quit to do, I feel like I just ruined my elderly neighbor's day. DL, doctor, he wasn't picking up his mail for several days, so I moved it so he could see it and now he thinks someone broke into his house. I work odd hours starting between 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. I 100% rely on my phone alarm to wake me up. I always set 3 to wake me up. Today I woke up in daylight, which means I missed work. Due to protocols, work is not easily rescheduled. I think I'm about to be jobless and homeless. Housing is usually provided in my field, and when I'm not working I live out of my car. I have already packed up all of my belongings and put them into my car. My boss is a great guy who is super nice and caring, but I don't think there is any way to salvage this. I'm embarrassed and ashamed. I also have to live with this disappointment going forward. I really don't know what to do. I wrote an email explaining that I know it's my fault and that it is unacceptable. TL doctor, I missed work because my alarm didn't go off, and now I'm certain I'm getting fired. I've been at my current job for 9 months now. That may not seem like a long time, but during this time I've assumed the duties of acting and assistant supervisor, as well as being a cashier. I have this coworker, a fellow cashier, who is older than me. I've never been particularly fond of her, but whatever. We basically only met at the changing of the shifts, but my schedule has changed now, which means we work together every other week. That'd be all fine and dandy if she didn't get in the way of me doing my job. It's small things, like telling me when to wipe down my counter, I can use my eyes to see if the counter needs to be cleaned, thank you, or when to assist a costumer, like I don't have the critical thinking skills to anticipate when a costumer may need help. The most glaring case, however, was when a pregnant customer came to my register with a cart full of groceries. I immediately knew she'd need help getting the groceries to her car, and I intended to flag down a co-worker to help. This co-worker calls my name. She was working 2 registers down from me, and helpfully informs me that my obviously very pregnant customer is pregnant. Twice. Then she tells me my customer will need help with her stuff. I let it slide and continue ringing up the groceries. Fast forward to a few days ago, when she told me a customer I was serving at my register would need additional bags. I could tell that was true, because I have eyes and a brain and can use both at the same time. I was annoyed, and even though I gave her an affirmative answer so she would get off my back, my annoyance bled through and she got offended. She then asked if I've always been this feisty. I didn't bother with a reply. I know I'm young enough to be her daughter and look even younger to boot, plus I'm soft-spoken and also let a lot of things slide at work just so I'll be able to keep the peace and make my day-to-day life in there as drama-free as possible. Honestly, the last thing we need in there with the plague going on is more work drama, but I'm not stupid, or at least not as stupid as she believes me to be. At least I feel validated in that there are other coworkers who don't particularly like her. I'm getting sick of this, and I want to talk back, but I don't know if I'd be able to deal with the drama. Plus, I don't want to bring this up with my boss, because I'm not a snitch. Anyway, while I've been at this job for almost a year, I feel like I have no right to talk back to people because I still, in some ways, think of myself as the new hire and I don't want to rock the boat so to speak. Just needed to get this off my chest. Thanks for reading y'all. When I was 17 I used to deliver for a well-known pizza place in the area. Of course Fridays were always insane and this Friday was supposedly going to be the biggest. Halfway through the night I got to deliver to a home for a specialty pie with 5 toppings. The bill came out to $35. Pizza was deep dish when given toppings so the price was always jacked up, and was hopping for another good tip to bring my night to about $50. As I'm walking up to the door I can hear them trying to shush their dog. Usually whenever this were to happen it was common courtesy for the customer to come outside to avoid any issues with their dog. Well, they open the door and their 100-pound husky comes bolting out, jumps, bites my arm and then attacks the pizza. Luckily I was okay and very disoriented from the whole situation and wasn't sure what to do since the pizza was all over their front steps. They freaked out and continuously apologized. They informed me that they would call the store and order a new pie and pay for both and tip me extra. However, they sent me on my way without ever paying me. My 17-year-old mind was still messed up from getting attacked by their dog. Getting back to the store I find out they never called and we couldn't find their phone number to contact them. Got bit by their dog and ended up not making anything after it all. For the whole 50 of you who come here, this sub started based off a tale about a kind old blind man that lives on my street. Today I had a brief conversation with him on my way out for work that I feel is post-worthy. I was driving down the street heading out for work when I see Mr. Wilson standing out in his front lawn with a cup of coffee staring at a tree. Again, he is blind, so I decide to pull over and check on him. Me: "Hey Mr. Wilson, what's going on?" Mr. W: "Is that you, clock?" Me: "Sure is, mate. Everything okay this morning?" Mr. W: "Sure is, just enjoying the fresh air." Me: "Well, good. The way you were just standing there I thought something might be wrong." Mr. W: laughs: "Yeah, I suppose it might be a bit strange to see an old blind man just standing around." Me: "No, not really, it's just that. Well mate, you're standing and staring right at your tree." Mr. Wilson cracks up laughing and I followed suit. We stood there and had a good laugh. Then he turns to me and says, "Mr. W, care to make a wager, clock?" Me: "Depends, on what?" Mr. W: "How many of the neighbors do you think can come by and question me about staring at a tree, between now and whenever I go inside?" Me: "Laugh and give a quick mental count of how many people on the street aren't total douchebags, I'd say about 3. Mr. W: "Well, I say 5, so you head out to work and I'll stare at this tree, and when you get off someone is gonna owe someone a beer." I had a good laugh and headed off to work. When I got home I had to go back out and get a 6-pack. Turns out 6 people checked on him. TL, Dr. Blind Man stares at a tree, turns into a bet. Hi everyone, this is my first post. I was born in Washington State, and half of 2nd grade I moved to Alaska. So the next 4 years were crazy, but this happened last year. I came to my middle school in half of the year. There was a English teacher, her first year. She would also yell at the boys for sometimes the littlest things. Anywho, to the story. This was in the 6th grade, I'm 7th now. I went to Hot Topic with my dad, stepmom, And stepsisters, I'm a big zodiac sign fan. My sign is a Cancer, so I take pride in that. I found a Cancer choker, it was black with the zodiac sign on it. So it looks like a stretch out sideways 69. I wore this to school to show it off. None of the teachers seemed to have noticed or have a problem with my choker. Until my last class, English. In the middle of class I was doing my work, I sat near the front. The teacher came up to me and asked if I can take my choker off. I did, but I was confused. At the time I didn't know what 69 mean. She said it was really inappropriate. I asked why, she said it was like a 69. Note that I don't really remember the whole chat. She did say, "Did your parents see you walk out wearing that?" I respond with yes. I told her it was the Cancer zodiac sign. She said, "Are you sure? With the I'm right look." I tried to explain it was a zodiac sign. When I went home I told my dad and stepmom. Stepmom equals SM. SM asked it, I had the receipt and the cardboard to it. I then later found it and handed it to her. I'm not so sure what happened next, I never wore it around her again. Sorry for the long story.